Hello everyone, Martin here. Not quite back with some more Legacy this time, but with some fun facts and numbers on my experience playing Doomsday. So this might be mostly for those of you who are fans of the deck Doomsday and might find it interesting to hear a bit about like the numbers I've collected in the years gone by. So basically, I I have a spreadsheet, and whenever I'm playing Doomsday, I record some bare minimum sort of data on each match I play. So I'll record if I like what deck I'm playing against, whether I won or lost, whether like what the score was, is 2-0, 1-2, whatever. Um, Whether I was on the draw or play, and what date, the date of the match. And I've done that since I picked up the deck, which was in about I want to say like March 2020. So currently it is the end of June 2023, so a bit more than 3 years, like 3 years and 1/4 of a year. And I have recorded 3,800 plus matches, which is just like it's mind-boggling to me. Um, I don't even want to think. Well, I can think about what that comes up to being per day, which is like a bit more than 10 matches every day, and I've taken long breaks at times. So that means that I have at times played a lot more than 10 matches per day. So I don't know, what can I say? Like when I get into it, I really get into it, and I will just churn through leagues. Um, I have also recorded some paper results, but it's mostly Magic Online, those 3,800 results. So just a few caveats, and like to bring full disclosure, I'm just one person, and you should always sort of take results like these with a pinch of salt. Um, I have not skimmed out. I've not like not recorded when I was in a bad mood and I lost or anything like that. The only results I didn't record was if my opponent left the game like before game two had started. So I mean, if I won game one or my opponent won game one and then my opponent disconnected and never came back, I didn't record that. And on like a handful of occasions, the same thing happened with me where like I started a game, we're playing, it's game one, and then suddenly, my kid needs me and it's like urgent, and then I have to abandon the game. Then I don't record that. But everything else I've recorded. Um, okay, enough about that. Let's jump into the matchup breakdown, which I have also done here. Um, I took the matchups I was able to find that had more than 50 occurrences, and so there's a lot missing from this. But I've brought if you look at the furthest to the left, you can see the overall. My overall match win percentage is 60.2%. So that is, I think, pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's not amazing, but it's certainly, I think, something I'm happy with. It means that this is across formats, across meta, or not formats, but across metas. Like this is back when we had Oko. We had Loris, we've had Ragavan, we've had Expressive Iteration. Um, and this is also me playing any version of Doomsday. I've mostly played, I would say, like serious versions of Doomsday, but of those 3,800, there have definitely been quite a few times where I've been like jamming 5 or 10 leagues with, I don't know, like I played something I called Monkey Doom at one point, which had like Ragavan in the main deck, and I've played lists with Uro in the main deck to like quite an extent. So this doesn't this isn't like Turbo Doomsday only or something like that. So now, if you look at it here, I would say that Delver is really interesting to oops to delve into. Pardon the pun. I think Delver is. I would say Delver is the archetype that most Doomsday pilots in the last 3 years have spent the most time trying to improve that matchup and feeling kind of bummed that it wasn't better. Um, and Lifetime, this is also like as you can see, this is the by far the biggest archetype that I faced. Um, the second biggest one is Blue Control, which is sort of an umbrella category. Delver is also an umbrella category. There is like Grixis Delver, Blue Red Delver, which is by far the most occurrences, Blue Red Delver. And then Rug Delver also, but Blue Control I think is a little bit broader. So people play Delver. People love to play Delver, and that really is reflected in the. This is like way more than 10% of my total matches has been versus Delver, which is quite interesting, I think. And my lifetime match win percentage is 45.7. So that that surprised me a little bit in a positive sense because I do at times admit to feeling like very depressed about like how bad Delver felt. And I do think that probably if you were to say what's the matchup percentage versus like expert Delver players, it's probably lower than 45-55. And conversely, it's probably higher versus novice Delver players. But an overall 45-55 for what I think for a long time was perceived as like the worst matchup for the deck among the top tier decks. I think it's not. That's not that bad. Um, I think, especially when you look at how much, like how high percentages we have versus at least a good a portion of the other sort of matchups you can expect to run into. Um, I also I tried correcting the overall match win percentage for Delver and saying if there was no Delver, and that moved my match win percentage from 60.2 to 63.0, I think, which was yeah, interesting. 63 point match win percentage if there was no Delver. Um, so what else is interesting? I think it's interesting that versus combo, we are like pretty decently set up, I think. Like Black Red Reanimator, I think it's like 57, 58 percent win rate, which I think is pretty decent, especially considering that Black Red Reanimator is sort of the notorious combo killer. Um, we have it very, very sweet versus Show and Tell. Plus 70%. I'm pretty surprised about that, to be honest. It's nearly 200 200 data points. Also, Elves is pretty high. I do think that that is probably skewed a bit by the fact that the first I can't remember when Allosaur Shepherd came out, but I do remember that once Allosaur Shepherd came out, Elves went from feeling like an almost unlosable matchup to very close. And whenever I play against Elves today, especially also since they got Endurance, it feels like it's pretty close. It's like it's very like dice roll dependent. So that is probably a little bit of a false representation here. Yeah, but show and tell pretty good. Storm also like we're very good against Storm. We do typically get to play like eight up to eight forces and our own Dark Ritual combo, so that's probably a good reason why. And I would say one of like our in the sort of top tier decks, one of our traditionally best matchups is Death and Taxes, and that is also borne out here. I'm also a little bit interested that lands shows up as having that we have this high win rate versus lands. But I think, like similarly to elves, I think once lands got endurance, I think that probably moved it in their favor. And so, like if you sort of mitigate for that, I think probably the match rate is the win rate is going to be a bit lower if I, for instance, remove the 2020 data. But I haven't actually checked into that. All right, so that was some of the good matchups. The bad matchups alongside Delver. Let's with the worst one. Let's start with that. That's Death's Shadow. It's my only out of the like top tier decks. It's the only sub 40% win rate. It's not that big of a number of data points, so yeah, I don't know. It could be better, could be worse in reality, but I'm not sure. But it does feel pretty terrible. Like it's like Delver, only they play like Thoughtseize and and hymns. So where they don't have the reach with the bolts, they have an almost as fast, if not faster, clock with their shadows, and we're not at all threatening their life total, so they can just completely go for it. And then like you're just getting like Thoughtseize, Griefed on the first couple of turns, and then they deploy a big threat, and they have Wasteland and Daze and Force. Oh, it's a nightmare. So I'm not surprised to see that being as low as it is. Also, in the poor matchup category, I would say the Stompy variants. I've grouped together all that I had sort of collected, but Moon Stompy is the biggest. I can't remember the like N198 it says here for the Stompy variants. I want to say that Moon Stompy is like 130 or thereabouts out of those 198. So we also have like initiative decks and like black Stompy and green Stompy and whatnot. Um, and that is actually one of the interesting things for me because it shouldn't surprise me. I do often feel like I have a hard time versus Moon Stompy, but whereas we've spent so much time trying to improve Delver, we as the Doomsday community, I don't think I have spent that much time trying to improve Stompy. It's like, well, I mean, Stompy is what Stompy is, and we can put in for Force of Negation, and maybe it gets a bit better if we play like a basic island and whatever. But I don't think I at least myself have not put in that much effort into trying to see if there's something that can be done to significantly improve that matchup because that's close to 40% that we win, which is not very good, and it is like those are quite popular decks, the Stompy decks. So that is something I might want to put some effort into in the future. What else? So Painter, I think Painter, I have improved my Painter matchup. I feel like that anyways, but that's just anecdotally. Since I added the Dothy Voidwalkers and Shieldreds and have an Emrakul, and you're able to more or less skew away from Doomsday or pivot away. And I think like I lost a lot of my initial matches to Death Shadow, sorry, to Painter because I only had the Doomsday. I had to win by putting Doomsday on the stack, and when your opponent has access to Grindstone, just as a baseline, that's a bit of a problem and a bit of a hindrance to play around. Um, yeah, I was surprised that I didn't have more 8 cast matchups. I actually thought that I would have, and I think it's because 8 cast, I kind of forget it anyways, is not that old, and it kind of grew from the wreckage of the old Echo of Eon's Narset combo deck that I think also played Emery, but was like a 4 Echo, 4 Narset, 4 LED kind of deck as well. And I didn't include those results, but I'm pretty sure like I had a pretty poor record against those. Um, what else? What else? What else? Yeah. I don't know. Like if you add up all the N here, you'll get to way less than 3,800, and that also means that there are just like there's a lot of matchups where it's just not in deck archetypes that there are that can be consolidated easily. I basically would end up with a huge other category, I think. But that might be something I could explore and see if I could maybe group them in more than just one other category. Um, but I think like that other category also sort of drags the win rate down. So that is quite interesting. Okay, what else? What else? I also just did a couple of things here on. I didn't include N here, but these are all uh, matchups where I have fewer than 50 matches. So it felt a little bit too little to include over here. But just for for funsies, I included 12 posts. I think I have like 28 or 30 recorded matches, and I have a plus 90% win rate, which doesn't really surprise me. I think I can't remember more than one or two times I ever lost to that deck. I don't face it very often. I think Tony Murata is not playing much these days. I at least that was he I think makes up for a substantial portion of those. But I also think I lost to Tony. So there is that. But that matchup, that deck has just a traditionally a really poor combo matchup, and I think especially versus Doomsday. So I thought it would be fun to include. Then I also thought it was interesting, and I'm pretty pleased about the mirror match win rate, which is plus 60%, and I think that may or may not be because I tend to play sideboards that are very good versus combo. So like lots of forces of negation and multiple Shieldreds, and sometimes like discard and stuff. And I think that is like it's about 40, I think, matches I have versus the mirror. So, and I really wanted to include Cephalid Breakfast, but I've only faced it like sub 40 number of times. So, so I couldn't really in my sort of master sheet over here. But that I think is that's a deck that's obviously grown in popularity in the last sort of 6 months or a year, and curious to see if I can maintain a plus 50% win rate because it does feel quite close, I think. And then finally, just really surprised that I was, again, this is like 35, 37 matches that burn wasn't lower than it is because burn is a, like, back in the day when we were playing, when Doomsday was the old DDFT, Doomsday Fetched Land Tendrils, and was basically a storm deck that was 4 or 5 colors and one with Tendrils of Agony. Burn was just like almost impossible because you were typically like a turn I want to say turn 3 or turn 4 combo deck that wanted to resolve Doomsday. Now at least we can be like a turn 1.5 or turn 2 combo deck that wants to resolve Doomsday, and that's a big difference. But we do still want to resolve Doomsday. Our combo piece deals us somewhere between typically 5 and 10 damage. So burn is never going to be like a pleasant thing to play against. Um, but this, I think, it does feel like, especially when you're playing fast versions of Doomsday, that when you're able to just win on the same turn, um, some amount of the time, then it can be fine. But anyways, yeah, I mean, this might not. I wouldn't begrudge you at all if you find this sort of thing kind of uninteresting or like irrelevant because it is just one person's experience, and obviously that's not really representative of anything. But just that when I actually went over all my results sheet, the sheer volume of matches meant that I thought there was something interesting to be maybe gleaned from these numbers. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I will be happy to answer anything and share if there's any specific matchup you want that's not included here that you're curious about. I can certainly have a look. And if you have any questions to the method for collecting the data, feel free to send me a message or leave a comment, and I'll answer anything I can. All right. Stay safe, have a good one, and I'll be back with some more Legacy at some point soon. Bye bye.